Hello, everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of November the 13th till 19th, 2023. We have a really intense sky at play, but I do believe that this is nothing new. We are already used to the intensity of this extended period. Yet, even so, next week has quite a distinctive intensity to it, something that we are actually not all that much used to. And this is because we start the week with a really, really powerful, energetic, intense, and potentially even, conflictual new moon. But of course, it doesn't have to play out that way because ultimately it is us who are the masters, the rulers, the symbolically like the emperor in the tarot, who truly have to make a choice. Now, of course, the sign of Scorpio, where all of this takes place, is a very, very instinctual sign. It represents the inner animal. It represents also partially the unconscious and the subconscious. So there is a lot of energy and, of course, inner mechanism that doesn't all that much depend on our conscious choices and awareness, but that is like an energy that basically shoots up from within like a geyser or like a volcano. And it is then when it's shot up, when we become aware of the intensity of the emotion, of the intensity of the feeling, when we have to make the choice. We can block it. Of course, to be totally honest with you, this is so very intense that totally blocking it out requires such a strong self-mastery that for most of us, it's not going to be possible. And sometimes, especially when it is fated, it's not even, all that good to block it out, but to transmute it, to give a meaning to it, to process and then react, then make a choice, then put something on the table symbolically. That is probably the best possible approach to this. So, without a shadow of a doubt, feelings, emotions, our reaction and reactivity is going to be, sky high, especially at the beginning of the week. But of course, all throughout the week, because the sun will dance with Mars together all week, basically. And even the week that fall, they will enter into the sign of Sagittarius, one after the other, and continue their dance there. So this is a very, very intense period. But besides the new moon, we also have this week the meeting, the conjunction, the cazimi of Mars and the Sun, that also opens a new cycle of 2 years. So there is a lot going on here. So with this being said, I'm going to invite you to look at my screen and we'll go through the energies of the week together. So right at the gate, let me just make this a bit more precise. This will do. We have this new moon in the sign of Scorpio on Monday the 13th or 14th, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is a really, really strong energy. Now, if you'd like to know the specifics of how this can influence us, I have a specially dedicated video for this new moon. You can check it out on my YouTube channel. And also, if you'd like to know how this particular energy may influence your life personally, which area of life and specifics, I have a tutorial video, how to read your own chart. You can check that out as well. But generally speaking, you can see on the screen the sun and the moon, the two luminaries together, and they also join Mars. And let me just show you. No, that's not it. You also see Ceres here. Now the conjunction with Ceres is not all that precise, but still is a valid conjunction. Just a moment, please. Let me put the screen back here so it's not this complicated. And the fact that Ceres is part of this conversation kind of reminds me of 12th of January 2020, when planetoid Ceres was part of the meeting of Saturn and Pluto. So usually from that moment onwards, her symbolism is quite intense. Now, this Ceres holds a trine with Neptune, and Ceres is responsible for nurture, for agriculture, for food, for, plants and stuff like that. And in the sign of Scorpio, it means transformation. And sometimes it means scarcity. It means a food crisis. It means famine. And this plays out in the world stage in a very obvious and clear way. So I'm not even going to get to that. But individually speaking, personally speaking, this is really, really good for detox, a radical and perhaps permanent change in diet to something obviously healthier, to something that really serves you. Why? Because Ceres holds a trine with Neptune. So this brings out the more positive side. And collectively speaking, Ceres trine Neptune means help, means humanitarianism, means compassion. It means that one way or the other, help is going to be offered. And the fact that all of us need to help is going to be highlighted. But personally, individually speaking, this can represent a really, really powerful transformation in diet. And this can also, try Neptune, activate our instinctual intelligence. Now, the world is full now of nutritionists and everyone having an expertise, everyone having an opinion, everyone having a different kind of methodology with nurture and the substances that our body integrates and all of that. Now, that is absolutely wonderful. And that in itself is also a little bit scorpionic because it's based on research, it's based on analysis, it is based on trial, error, and experimentation. Yet, this trine with Neptune activates our internal intelligence. So basically, everyone's body, everyone's, not just the physical part of the body, but as I said, Scorpio, the inner animal, knows and is connected, to nature. So in that sense, it knows what we need. It knows what is beneficial for us. And, a detox, of course, is needed because the inner animal's intelligence is distorted by, fast food and all the drugs we have in our food and sugar and stuff like that. But after a bit of detox, that innate internal intelligence can come online and it can guide us to what our own unique body needs, which quantity, when, how, etc., etc. And this can manifest either through our cravings. And when we crave, fast food, and I don't want to mention brands and stuff like that. Well, that's obviously addiction. That's obviously what we need to eliminate, the purge part of Ceres. But when we crave like certain, for example, like just nuts, for example, or just, I don't know, raw coriander, or these are just random examples. When we have that special craving and it's not even translated to like a happy meal or something like that, that means that the body is telling you that whatever is in that plant, whatever you're craving, that is extraordinarily beneficial to you. A more elevated way where this can actually play out is through intuition. Like, without a very rational or logical reason, like, let me just give an example from my life. You know that you should buy this and that multivitamin without, of course, being influenced by adverts and stuff like that. You just wake up one day and you say, I need to buy a multivitamin or vitamin D or, whatever. And I'm not really promoting pharmaceutical companies because that can be found in non-pharmaceutical places as well. That is another way where the Ceres Neptune trine guides us to greater health and what our body needs. So this is a really, really positive energy. But of course, in a larger sense, even the new moon and Mars trines Neptune. Just that the Mars and the Sun will need to progress through the week until they perfect their trine with Neptune on the 17th or 18th is when that is exact. But I'll speak about what that energy means a bit later on. For now, at the beginning of the week, let's remain at this new moon, because one of the specifics of the new moon, besides being conjunct Mars, is the opposition to Uranus. And Uranus is, of course, the wild card. Uranus is chaos. Uranus is the unforeseeable, unpredictable, surprise, surprise. So however this new moon plays out in our lives individually and collectively as well, will have at least one element of surprise, chaos, and unexpected to it. But this energy can, exactly as I said, play out in either way. And a part of it, at least, will depend on us, on our choice, on our wisdom. And speaking about wisdom, all through this week, again, let me just show that to you. We have here Pallas Athena at the end degrees of Libra, which means she's squaring Pluto. And Pallas Athena is goddess of wisdom. And in the sign of Libra, it is our own wisdom, expertise, life experience, or the power of our intelligence, but not necessarily in a flowy, mercurial way, but based on everything that we accumulated and can even come from past lives. Why not? So that wisdom squares Pluto. And that represents that we really, really, really need to tap into the maximum of our, I don't even know what term to use here, because what generates wisdom? It's not just the mental sphere, it is all of our spheres in unison. So that is exactly what we need, because just throwing certain experience, life experience on the table, well, this is how it always used to be, this always worked, this is wise in the larger sense, that will definitely not work. And collectively speaking, Libra is negotiations, diplomacy, talks, the situation of one side and the situation of the other side on the scales of justice. And those are processed, those are evaluated, those are contemplated in order for a compromise or greater justice to be, executed, enabled. So, as I said earlier, just basic life experience and wisdom, or even ancient wisdom, religious wisdom, any kind of wisdom is not gonna do it. But wisdom alchemized, where we truly put an effort to understand both situations. Let's divert from the collective. Let's go to individual. Let's say that Pallas Athena, you have a court case. Libra, this is where, in order to get somewhere, in order to use this energy to the maximum, we need to profoundly understand our own situation and quite objectively the other one's situation. This is where we need to be good psychologists, spiritualists, lawyers, everything. We need to bring the best of the best from us. And in that way, this aspect can truly help us. I know it's a square and it's challenging, but the challenge is exactly the effort and the analysis, Pluto in Capricorn. But if we manage to distill some wisdom in that sense, so the wisdom that is applicable to here and now, by analyzing the situation of the other as well, by detaching from any subjective feelings, now that can work like a charm in legal case, in a decision, in choice, in contract, in so very many things. But again, I just want to put it back to the new moon. So again, we're still at the new moon, opposing Uranus. I highlighted Pallas Athena, because her square with Pluto, and she is in the sign of Libra, highlights that it is about choice. It is about using our greatest wisdom to give a shape and form to these energies. Because without our contribution, without shape and form, well, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be chaos. It's gonna be big, big, big chaos. And if you can see on the screen, this is Black Moon Lilith. I know that you see two Black Moon Liliths here, but this is the truer one. This is more like a adjustment. So the new moon and Uranus T square, Leo, the true one is still in Leo. This energy, the shadow of Black Moon Lilith. So it is gonna be not all that easy to the heart, Leo, to the inner child, to our most fervorous emotions. We might need to put a lid on it to control it. We might need to take the stance of a veteran warrior who is immune to rage, like a samurai, like a grandmaster samurai or whatever, something like that. But besides that, this is where if we don't do that, then it's going to be chaos. It can be conflict. And Uranus opposing the luminaries, something is being revealed, for example. I know that the full moon, so the sun opposing moon, has the more revelatory qualities. But in the sign of Scorpio, Scorpio is all about digging deep investigation, getting to the bottom of things. And a new moon, yes, darkness, but darkness which, again, to the symbolism of the geyser, starts things shooting up from the unknown, from the realm of the unknown, from the darkness. So there has to be darkness. This new moon is almost like takes the lid off. And, this new moon is also the energy which ends the eclipses. Ends the eclipses in the sense that it breaks the ice. The power, the karma, the energy of the eclipses is still flowing, is still ongoing, but it's no longer exclusive. It starts the flow. But the flow, as I said, is intense. It's like a huge geyser, like a huge volcano erupting. And at the same time, Sun conjunct Mars, that's combustion. That is strong fire energy, aggravation. So we can expect earthquakes, symbolically or literally, very, very unusual weather phenomenon, chaos basically in weather, within nature, having a strong saying. But at the same time, this cannot, Uranus is technology. And Scorpio can actually represent what we do with technology, what we use technology for. Scorpio gets what it wants. It follows the purpose through technology. So this can also represent some kind of chaotic event based on technology. Either technology misfires, or technology is misused, or without a shadow of a doubt, Mercury at this moment is still squaring Saturn. And that represents freedom of speech. That represents cutting off the internet, how should I even explain this? The internet influence to connect groups of people who have the same purpose. You know what I mean? So long story short, freedom of speech is cut off. So this energy is really going to be really, really intense. And this is also due to the Uranus and new moon opposition, because Uranus also rules the internet. Uranus also rules what we do with the internet. And Uranus is Mercury's higher octave. So in a certain way, it's also responsible for communication, but not the classical, the typical expression of it. So news will travel, maybe contradictory news, or maybe something is going to be so massive that it's not even susceptible to opinion. Something just happened, and that's the same for everyone. You know what I mean? So it's chaos. And individually speaking, this can be, for example, you find out a secret, or for example, a betrayal, infidelity. You see the true light of things and how you react to it. This can play out in so very many different ways. But now let's get to the expression of this, where I don't want to say we have like control in an obsessive and negative way, but I do want to say that where we try our best to apply wisdom and discipline like that. So the control, which is self-discipline, knowledge, wisdom, and Neptune, trine with Neptune, strong morality, and a spiritual approach as well. When I say spiritual, in this case, it's really not religious, but just, where we perceive the divine through our subtle senses, and the divine guides us like that. So spirituality outside of religion, and even outside of ancient wisdom, just the free flow of the spirit. And, Mercury squaring Saturn, Mercury being in a sign of Sagittarius, that's also religious energy, religion perhaps. And I'm so sorry to say this, even ancient wisdom is blocking us, blinding us. And Sun, Mars, first of all, the moon, then Sun and Mars follow Mercury. They will hold the square with Saturn. Again, religious conflict, or the darkest side of religion. And hand in hand, also ancient wisdom. Now, why you would probably think, well, ancient wisdom is basically the distilled essence of the wisdom of, yes, absolutely. But when reality, when our whole paradigm is changing and shifting, what comes after that's so new that ancient wisdom does not help. If anything, it hinders, because it is all our jobs to figure out what the new wisdom is, what the new version of the ancient wisdom is. Because in a quantum universe, everything is upgrading. Nothing is all that real. Not even the stars, not even the sky, not even the stable structure of the universe. It's not all, it's just a dream, really. If we allow ourselves to be oppressed by the strong density of matter, then it's real for us. Very, very, very real. Painfully real. But if we rise above through our consciousness, then we already get to the phase where, of course, it's real, but not all that real that it oppresses us. And basically, long story short, this is the essence of this new moon. How do we find a way to rise above so whatever is doesn't oppress us, doesn't suffocate us, doesn't imprison us in our own lives? This is the journey of the alchemist that this new moon actually starts. And we might get the very first phase of this week, started by this really, really powerful new moon. Now, besides this, the potential here, this is very powerful, psychological, soul level self-empowerment, let's say. Uranus can represent the epiphany. Uranus can represent our authenticity. Uranus can represent standing in our own truth. And at the same time, the quincunx all of these planets hold with Aries and the North Node, it means we have to fight for our sovereignty, because that's what it means. Our sovereignty, our freedom, our truth, our authenticity, the right way. You know, because if we choose the wrong way, we just make things 10 times worse. If we choose the right way, and the right way, whatever the right is for us individually, there isn't like a collective recipe that works for everyone. This is where every single soul has to deeply, intensely soul search in this present moment. Until Pluto is still in Capricorn, we have the power to transform and change even the hardest things, even the most rigid things in life, in our lives. When Pluto is in Aquarius, that will be so different, because chances are we will still do it, but with help. So that takes the focus away from us, from our journeys, from our mission. And, you know, we just melt, we just, how should I say? We get absorbed by the collective, not in a negative sense, of course, but whatever we do and happens right now is so very important that we don't even realize it. We have no clue how our everyday thoughts and feelings every second in this period, not just this week until December, the end of December, we have no clue how important they are, and how through these subtle elements we're actually choosing our future, not just individually, but the collective future as well. So if we embody, you know, our innate wisdom and allow the spirit, but what type of spirit? Because Neptune in Pisces is both, I'm gonna exaggerate now, both the spirit of Christ and the Antichrist as well, and they're equal. Because Pisces, you know, Pisces is a dual spirit sign, you know, ether, pure ether. The spirit can inspire saints and psychopaths and serial killers and everything. All I just, what immediately popped into my mind is the Amityville Horror. If you're familiar with the story, not necessarily the movie, the story. That's the spirit in a way that is very scary, gruesome, and dark. So we have to, of course, feed that side of the spirit which we want to feed. And if we know what's good for us, then we feed the spirit of compassion, the spirit of mercy, the spirit of unity, the spirit of communion, and the creative side of the spirit. So the trine with Neptune. And through that, our psychological fortitude, the intensity, the singularity that we invest into getting where we need to get, because the Scorpio energy can represent our needs, our greatest wants, but distilled. So we know already what is just a greedy desire, what is just something that the inner animal wants to sink his teeth into, and what is truly important and necessary in our lives. We already know the difference between the two. So I'm presuming everyone is investing this psychological fortitude to their distilled dreams and needs and the progress that they actually need to make. And it will do wonders. So let us all use the energy of this new moon in the highest possible sense, because the more people do this, the more souls do this, that gives that less chance for something really dark and grotesque and the doom and gloom to manifest. And of course, besides using this energy for ourselves, we have to use it for the collective. Project your sovereign desire onto the world. You want peace, or you want communion. You want everyone to mind their own business, but in the best sense, their own evolution, their own dream, their own soul purpose, etc., etc. So that requires a certain kind of peace. That requires a certain kind of harmony in the universe, inner, outer universe, and the inner universe as well. But harmony doesn't come just like that. Harmony needs to be fed and nurtured like a garden, for example, like a Zen garden. And Venus in the sign of Libra, it screams about this because we had so much intense activity in Libra. Venus, the ruler, is now coming to draw the final conclusion. And much later on, she will meet with the South Node. That will be also very... But coming back to the main idea, Venus in the sign of Libra supports this so very much. So we really, really must choose harmony. We must choose balance. And we must choose truth, equality, equity. So I do believe that I said more than enough about this new moon. As I said, if you'd like to find out, I have more details about this, I have a separate video. So let's get back to the 14th, where we have the moon leaving the new moon formation, entering the sign of Sagittarius, conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius, of course. This means that we will react to some kind of news, some kind of international news or news about travel, because the moon, as it touches Sagittarius, it immediately squares Saturn. Travel restriction is possible, something with aviation, something religious, something with international law. So we react to some kind of news and communication. Let's go forward. On the 15th, we have a really, really beautiful energy where Mercury sextiles Venus. And this sextile between the two planets is so very good for negotiations. It is so very good to progress in legal action if you might have any. And even if it's not like a conflictual legal action, you want to start a firm, you want to start up a business or whatever, well, that will have legal elements to it. This paper, this institution, that institution, etc., etc. This energy is so good for that. It is highly persuasive. It is good for communication, to present your truth, to present your point of view, to present your ideas, your highest aspirations even, and it goes a long way. Chances are, if you use the best of your charisma, if you use the best of your, communication skills, and Mercury and Sagittarius, your knowledge, your academic skills, your mastery, diplomas, higher education, all of that, it gets you a long way. So good for job negotiations, so good for contracts between two companies and firms, or company and the state. It's really good for everything that has to do with international. It is good to get help from your friends and acquaintances. But when I say friends and acquaintances, this isn't necessarily like the big soul connection kind of, just people in your life who a chance makes you have the same interest, or you usually have the same interest, and not necessarily like the best friend energy, but just people in your life who you're connected to speak to them, to have common activity is really, really, really good. And why not? It's also good for romance and love, especially when it's about a foreigner or the person comes from a very foreign background from you. But there's a twist here, because both Venus and Mercury, and their sextile is very, very precise, 7 degrees Sagittarius, 7 degrees Libra, they hold a quincunx to Jupiter at 8 degrees of Taurus. So that means as a yod, a finger of God is pointing at Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, Jupiter also being retrograde. Jupiter is the planet of truth, of justice. When I say truth, it's subjective truth. How we, perceive truth and integrate it within ourselves. Jupiter can also rule religion. Jupiter can also rule our highest aspiration and our worldview. And it rules the sign of Sagittarius. So basically, Mercury in exile, we must not forget that Mercury is in exile. It is heavily influenced by Jupiter. So again, what is true? What is justice? This is where we cannot be blind to external, let me give you an example. We have this project and dream and everything is going smoothly, everything is going nice, but then Jupiter from the sign of Taurus will also tell us, okay, all of that is absolutely wonderful, but do not have unrealistic hopes, do not have unrealistic faith, because while the world is in flames and blocked in so very many ways, how are you individually gonna triumph all that much, So this aspect, this yacht says, anything that you progress with your personal situation is absolutely fine and wonderful and delightful, but how should I take into consideration that your personal timing also has to, roughly in a large way, not in a specific way, match the collective timing. Because, as I said, if the world is if your local community is severely challenged by something, Jupiter in Taurus, that can mean basic needs or earthly problems that need to be solved by everyone and urgently. You know what I mean? That will influence you, that will drag you down. So be aware. Awareness is very, very necessary. And on the world stage, it is something to do with justice. How it will play out, the quincunx is an unexpected. It is a surprise, a weirdness, a randomness, something that just gets in the way. We'll see how that will play out. But it is a strong fated energy because it's a yod. Something fated is definitely going to be unfolding. And this Mercury and Venus sextile gives us the tools to work with that, to make it our own. And also on the 15th, let me just, Ceres trines Neptune. I do believe they perfect. Yeah, their trine is more or less perfected, even though Ceres is a bit way ahead. Again, I already spoke about the Ceres and Neptune trine, individually speaking, the detox, the healthy diet, the food, but collectively speaking, this can mean humanitarian help of food, with food and stuff like that. Now, let's move on the 16th, where we also have really, let's say, minor aspect, but to me, at least personally, it says so much. So notice that we have Vesta, so goddess of the sacred flame, protector, guardian of the household, not just physically speaking, but the energies, the harmony, the feelings, the family, basically. In the sign of family, Cancer. And Cancer, collectively speaking, represents our land, people's land. I'm not even going to go to detail because you understood my message, is opposing the moon, which will conjunct dwarf planet Ixion, then Pholus, and then dwarf planet Quaoar. So the moon is our collective emotion, and the moon rules the sign of Cancer. So something is really, really, really gonna trigger our feelings. Now, an opposition can play out in more than one way. Vesta and in Cancer opposing these planets in Capricorn. Capricorn is authority, Cancer is the people. So, you know, this can represent a favorable compromise, but this can also represent a fight. But a fight where Quaoar, Pholus, and Ixion, in their highest expression, can represent those politicians, those members of state, those leaders who are really, really aligned with morality and want to do the right thing because they distance themselves from politics and know that they have to, there are the heroes in disguise, and they will try to negotiate, they will try their very, very best to help the situation. The more negative expression of this energy, well, Ixion is total lawlessness. Ixion is the father of all centaurs. He was a king who kind of defied Zeus, you know, insulted indirectly the king of the gods. So you can imagine that even after Zeus gave him a second chance, he blew it and was cast in eternal exile in the abyss. Yet, it exactly total lawlessness. So this is where, and in Capricorn, leaders have absolute no divine law, no earthly law, nothing. Pholus's negative expression is ignorance. Either curiosity, let's see what this does, you know, or in the other sense, this might work. I'm not sure, but it makes sense theoretically. Let's just try out and see what happens. Or another expression of Pholus is when this seems very, very dangerous, but I'm special. And you try it, and of course you get burned. And Quaoar, you know, the negative expression of Quaoar is creational chaos, but in the bad kind of sense. You know, when creational chaos, wind transports the seed of, I don't know, bindweed or that very, very aggressive wild grape-like plant that destroys concrete and homes, and it's creational, it's life, it grows, but it's bad. And opposing Vesta, people will fight this off. But it's an opposition, so the middle path. How will this play out? But what really speaks to me is the moon conjunct on the 16th of November, the moon conjuncting these planets. So this will trigger our feelings and our emotions. So now we are on the 17th, when we have the Mars conjunct the Sun and they trine Neptune. Now, the Mars and Sun conjunction in itself is a very, very combustive, a very, very explosive, a very, very intense energy. This evokes our deepest feelings. This evokes our inner strength, our ambition. In the most negative sense, vengeance, wrath, anger, unforgiveness, or I'm not even sure if I used that word correctly. Something that just cannot be forgiven. And a strong reaction, like a strong inner volcano to this. Also in the most negative sense possible, where we see what we need, what we want, what we desire, but we have to walk on, let's say, corpses to get there. And we sprint, you know what I mean? So this is where life can give you a chance to get what you want, but through highly immoral, aggressive, toxic, manipulative Scorpion, the lower expression Scorpionic means. And you take the chance with a smile. Of course, because Neptune doesn't always have to represent something in the highest version of itself. It's the divine source, it's unconditional love. It is everything positive about the spirit and spirituality, the power of prayer, the power of pure thought, the power of pure emotion and all of that. Yes, but in its negative way, lies, deception, using wisdom, psychology, the knowledge of people in order to manipulate them, lie, deceive, con, and get what you want. So this is where it will be a choice. And also, this aspect empowers, as I said, people who are brilliant at lying and manipulation. So let's be careful with online scams or offline scams, even where this kind of aspect is almost like when you give honey to a wasp swarm, and the wasps are these toxic people and their toxic modus operandi. They will be full of power and energy, just like a wasp swarm. Sorry, they want to eat everything, like a locust swarm. You know, they will clear everything that they can. So we need to be careful. If someone promises or says something that is way too good to be true, chances are it is. So, you know, let's be very, very protective of our identity, of our online safety, and all of that. Because, as I said, a trine is beautiful and empowering, but for everyone non-discriminately, even to criminals. And so you understand my message. This aspect also represents the more positive side of escapism, because Sun and Mars together in the sign of the occult, that represents, you know, searching for truth, searching for information, searching for the understanding of the spirit and how spirit works. Neptune empowers this from the spiritual, ethereal, the cosmic consciousness kind of sign of Pisces. So this is really, really good for soul searching, but through escapism. You know, maybe like certain ceremonies, maybe, you know, I'm not sure how the I'm not sure what the term is. You know, when yogis and Buddhists and stuff like that stay awake and they reach a certain state, or plant medicine or all of that, it's really good to actually use it to get somewhere positive. It's really good for anything that has to do with purge, to give up on this, on that toxic relationship, forgiveness, clear out the past traumas, go to healing. It might even be good for medical intervention if, you know, you have something inside of you that really needs to be taken out. Because Scorpio, like, is surgery, you know, classical surgery, where it's ill, it has to be cut out, it has to be cut off, it has to be eliminated. So that is really, really good for that. And on the other side, the Sun and Mars together in Mars's home sign of Scorpio, and them together holding a sextile with Pluto, the modern ruler of Scorpio, and Mars is the lower octave of Pluto. So these planets have a very, very strong connection to one another. Things will be definitely ongoing collectively. Events will happen. There will be intensity. There will be strife. There will be input of effort for every side to get what they want. So this is very, very obvious and clear. But the same goes for us personally, where we need to alchemize this combustion. If it makes us anxious, if it wants to make us over ambitious, if it wants to drive us into a certain kind of fanaticism, the Scorpio, if it like angers us deeply, of whatever source of anger will play out in our lives, another person, infidelity, betrayal, your friends let you down, your boss, your work, something lets you down. Instead of trying to find another way, instead of focusing on what we have in our lives and where we're very powerful at, especially that Pluto is leaving the square it holds with the nodes of the moon. It's still operational a little bit, but it's not as vengeful and makes us feel totally powerless as it was a couple of weeks ago. So it's really, really good to find alternative solutions, to alchemize, to transform, to take a not ideal bad situation and turn it around into something much better. Now, the bad choice is to unleash anger, to unleash the wrath, to unleash the rage. And also, this is where the Mars cycle of the next 2 years is going to be scorpionic, which means that, again, big endings in our lives, us having to work, having to invest power, strength into big, big endings. And at this moment, look, Ceres holds a perfect sextile with Pluto. Again, transformation. And Ceres represents to find whatever nurtures us, but in a healthy sense. And now I'm not speaking about food or physical things, but soul nurture. What gives power? What gives food? What gives this energy, continuity to our soul? We need to find that and integrate it in our lives. Now, you might say, well, love. Okay, absolutely. But you need a source of love in your life. Or you need to find it, get it. Let me give you an example. Partnership is not all that possible in the present moment, or you don't see it possible in the coming weeks and months, even year, because of the past or because something. No problem, get a puppy, get a kitten. Love has so very many ways and shapes and forms of expression. So if you know that love makes you 10 times stronger, find a source of love. If you know, I don't know, that solitude, spending time alone with yourself makes you stronger, find, you know what? So you get the picture. We need to find whatever feeds us. And going back to the Sun and Mars conjunction, so the next 2 years, at least from the Martian perspective, anything that we need to end in our lives, big, big endings. And Mars means we putting in effort and getting there. Also, transformation, what we need to change, what we need to evolve, what we need to upgrade. For example, you have higher education. Finally, it's time to get a master degree or get a new, I don't know, an upgrade one way or another with your knowledge. Or it can be your business. It needs an upgrade. It can be your financial situation, Scorpio. Find a way to get rid of the debt or focus everything in your power to get rid of debt. So this is where Mars will have the Scorpio specific intensity to it. And let's get to the 18th. So 18th, we have the perfecting of the Mars and Sun conjunction that I spoke about, the Cazimi. And at the time of the Cazimi, look, the moon is conjunct Pluto, and they sextile the Cazimi together. How beautiful. This is pure alchemy, pure soul empowerment, the right kind of ambition, the right kind of determination, the right kind of devotion, sorry. And this can also represent finding help. Pluto, again, in the sign of Capricorn, in a personal, it can represent a person, an influential person, a father figure, a boss, I don't know, wealthy person. You might say sugar daddy. Well, ironically, yes, absolutely, it can represent that. But the sextile, make it positive, make it work. elevate it. You know what I mean? And it gets you there. Help. This means some kind of help is coming in. Identify it and use it. But where I want, so at the time of the Cassini moon, conjunct Pluto, that means a very strong psychological empowerment when you need to invest that into something that you need to have and are working at in your life to achieve. But of course, all through the week, there are going to be some very minor astrological conversations that will anger us, that will frustrate us, and that will, in a way, block our vision, our clear vision. Clear vision in the now, of course, not long, just in the now. You know, as we go through our day, there will be strong elements of frustration. One of these aspects is both the sun and Mars, because they're together, obviously, hold a semi-square with Venus. Venus wants so much peace, love, equity, to find solution, to make it okay for both sides or for everyone. But the intensity of Mars and the sun says, no, 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 no. Of course, we embrace the peace and all of that, but this is where when intensity has its moment, then Venus cannot really step in and force love and all of her highest expression, because she's at home in Libra, upon anyone. And look, Venus is also conjunct Makemake. So that's quite a dwarf planet Makemake. That's also a really positive energy, because it means that Venus can dream up solutions in a quantum way. Even when something seems that, well, it's doomed. It's 100% doom and gloom. Makemake can still turn things around with its creational strength, with its primordiality. So Venus is empowered by this dwarf planet. So this gives me hope. But on the other hand, Venus's attempts for peace and all of that are gonna have challenges. They are gonna be blocked. Not fully, but as an attempt. Another energy is Mercury holding a square and a half, a sesquiquadrate with the North Node and Aries. Again, communication, the news, everything that flows. We might be exasperated, stressed out, made anxious by the news, by communication, by everything. And that can also mean blockages and delays in travel, even personal travel, dates, times, and stuff like that. And finally, another minor energy, but this minor energy right now is major, because these two planets are slow move. Actually, one is not a planet, are slow moving. So this semi-square that I'm going to mention in a moment is quite ongoing. You know what I mean? And I'm speaking about Saturn, semi-square Chiron. So the wounding. Now, the wounding collectively, I don't need to mention that, because Aries, the sign of the warrior, Chiron in Aries, wounding because of war and conflict and battle. That's very obvious. And, you know, back in a few years, me and many other astrologers expected Chiron to be triggered in a collective way, but in a very noticeable way. The whole situation with the COVID, well, on one hand, that made a lot of sense because of the collective wounding and the problem and all of that, but it didn't necessarily play out as militaristically as it usually does. Well, all we needed to do is wait a year or two, and this is sadly, unfortunately, the militaristic expression. You know, this also proves that it's not over until the big boned lady sings, because the fact that it didn't play out so obviously gave us a lot of hope. Oh, humanity with her wisdom and learning from the past, has overcame that expression of energy. Well, sadly to say, humanity didn't. So yes, our own personal wounds and wounding is going to be highlighted. It's almost like, we have all this empowerment and we're going and doing it and we have some progress. And opposing Uranus, it can be a big, big breakthrough, regardless of how it comes in our lives, more anxiously and discomfortly, or as an epiphany, as surprise, it doesn't matter. But even though we're making so good progress, we still feel the wound. And of course, Saturn, Neptune is also slowly and surely breaking off the semi-square it holds with Jupiter. But this is also a delicate energy, because it's hard to have hope. It's hard to have pure faith when Jupiter in Taurus, the physical world around us, is full of hatred and injustice. So I would like to leave it at this. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you so, so much, everyone who helped me last week. It means a lot to me. Every single person, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you'd like to support me, you can like and share or donate in the PayPal link in the description below. Wishing everyone a blessed and empowered week. And don't forget that consciousness, our faith, our psychological fortitude is our greatest shield and weapon. And we really, really must use it to alchemize and transmute next week. Thank you again. Until next time. Bye for now.